So the look back session is now live. All right. So now the whole idea is how to build, how to basically start your Django project. Now there's something called Django apps. Okay? Think of apps as your Lego building blocks to building your project. Every app is a block. You can use one block for the whole project, or you can have multiple blocks. Okay? But you can't have a project without blocks. And the apps are our blocks. So let's create an app and see what it has inside. Okay? So, creating a Django app. I just say Python, manage.py, start app, and then I give it a name. Okay? You don't need to follow along. Just want you to watch, and then I'll give you a chance to try it out in one of the tasks. Okay? So, again, Python, manage.py, start app, and I'll give it a name. I'll call it articles. So now if I type ls, I'll see that I have a folder called articles. Okay? So what I'm going to do now so that it's easier for me to deal with this, راح أبطل البروجكت بتكست editor. أنا شخصيا راح أستخدم Sublime. اللي بيستخدم VS Code, Atom, PyCharm, choose whatever text editor you like and open it with that. Okay? Just give me a minute to open this up. Alright, so this is what I get when I open my project. Now this might be a little hard to see, but if you open it on look back, you'll see the folder directories. Okay, so again, the name of my project right now is task 01, or you know what, I'm just going to switch to another project. Give me a minute. I'm just going to switch to the first project we worked on. اللي هو اسمه my EMV. Okay, so I'm just going to recreate the app again because this is a different project. Okay, so here's my project, right? 7.7. Here's the app that I created called Articles. Okay? Now, if I open up Articles, I'll see that I have a couple of files inside. All right? Let's take a closer look at what I actually get. Let's go back to the slides. We'll get to that in a bit. The app architecture. So every app has a file called init.py. Do you guys remember what this file is? It's just an empty Python file that says this is a special Python folder. Simple as that. If you want to know more about it, just Google it to get a deeper meaning, but there's not that much to know about it. Admin.py. So one of the things that we said, if you guys remember, Django comes with an admin page out of the box. Okay? How your app interacts with that admin page is through this file. We'll be seeing that pretty soon, so don't worry about it. Apps.py, it's the configurations for your app. Okay? Migrations. So anytime you do something related to changes in the database, It's in this folder. Models.py, you guys remember what models are? It's the architecture of your database. So whenever we write something called a model, which we'll get to later on, we do it in this file, models.py. And then you have tests.py. Tests.py, we won't be using this. Well, you will be using it, but in an indirect way. So if you want to write code that tests your code, you do it in tests.py. شنو يعني code that tests your code? Okay. مثلا خلينا نقول عندكم view معين يسوي أو خلينا نقول عندكم. Okay, it's going to be hard to explain at this stage. Well, we'll get back to it later once we cover a little more coding. بس الزبدة إنه tests are code that test your code. It'll make more sense later, I promise. Okay? And views, you guys remember what views are? The logic. So views are the logic. So we got the logic, we got the architecture. We'll see the templates at a later time. Okay? You guys remember where the URLs are? No? In the inner project folder. So if you guys remember, so right now my project is called what? 77 صح؟ في ملف ثاني داخل اسمه 77. إذا أدخل داخله راح أشوف إنه فيه فايل اسمه URLs. Now look, how all of this connects, we'll go over that in a bit. Don't worry about it. I just need you guys to kind of understand what each file is for. Okay? Then let's go back. So that's the app architecture. All right. So right now I created an app. صح؟ اللي هو articles. ولكن الجانجو project للحين ما راح يشوفه. ليش؟ إيش درى إن أنا أساساً سويت app جديد؟ He doesn't. So I have to do something called registering. How do I register it? As simple as opening the settings file. Let's see what that looks like. I go to the settings.py file. I scroll down. I see something called installed apps. So again, remember we said Django comes with stuff out of the box. This is the stuff that comes with it out of the box. Don't worry about what it is for now. All we need to know is, right now, if I create an app, I need to register it here. How do I register it? I just type its name. Simple as that. What was my app called? Articles. So I'll say articles. Yes. So how were we able to create an app successfully? It's just 2 steps. Manage.py start app. That was step 1. Step 2. Register it. You go to the settings.py file, the installed apps list, and you just have it as one of the items in the list. That's it. Cool? Cool. So now we're ready to write our first view. We'll do a little bit of logic. All right? So I'm going to go, where's my code? Okay. So I'm going to go to the views.py because that's where all the logic happens, right? Let's read a little bit about views and then we'll jump into that. So if you guys remember, like we said the view is the logic, right? What we're going to cover right now is this cycle. From the web browser, I type in a URL, that URL accesses a view, and the view gives back something to the web browser to see. Okay, we're going to cover this cycle right now. All right? So the way a view works is there's something called a request and response cycle. It's very simple. You send a request. How do you send a request? The simplest example is just typing in a URL. That is the simplest way of making a request. And then you get back a response. What's an example of a response? The web page that you see. You guys want to see an example of this? Or let's say, this is the URL, right? By clicking enter, I just sent a request. This page is the response. Make sense? Simple as that. So now, what we want to do is we want to set up a view that's going to receive a request and give back a response. Okay? Now, there's different types of request methods and response statuses. You guys are probably familiar with this. So the request methods that we'll be going over, there's two that we're going to be going over. There's get and there's post. So the most common uses are get is when you retrieve data. Post is used to send data. Get is for getting, post is for sending. Simple as that, like the name says. Response statuses. I'm sure you have all seen this at some point in your life. Right? So 200, you probably haven't seen it, but you kind of have at the same time. Is if something works normally, like it should, that's a 200. 404, if you type a URL that's wrong, you'll probably see a 404. We can actually do this right now. So let me mess around with the URL. It'll say 404, page not found. This page does not exist. Okay? And then there's 500, internal server error. So that's when you get to laugh at whoever made the website. That means there's a bug in their code. They made a mistake. Cool? These are the most common response statuses. Any questions so far? All right. So now that we know a little bit about how views work, how do we create a basic view? All right. Now, the way that we're going to create a view is we're going to be doing something called a function-based view, which means our view is a Python function. All right. If you take a look, the function is receiving a request. Okay. And it returns a response. Gets a request, gives back a response. Okay. This is a very simple example. Let's try it out and see what happens. Okay. So let me go back to my code. So I'm going to create a view. What do you guys want to call it? Let's call it test. So again, this view needs to receive a request, صح? Now I need to return some sort of response. So the most basic type of response that you want to return is something called a HTTP response. All right, let me just import that. Yeah. All right, so all we need to give this is just some sort of string. So I'll give it a simple string. All right, I'll say all right. So, am I done making this view? technically, but how do I access it? How do I call it? I need a URL, right? Because if we take a look back over here, the view is contacted through the URL, right? All right, so let's go back. Now, again, we said the URLs are where? Over here, right? In the inner project folder. Go to the URLs file. I'm just going to delete this junk over here. So, now our view is basically a function, right? So the first thing is, I need to import it. I'm going to use this function, I need to import it. Okay? Where is this view? Where is it located? It is located in the folder called articles, in a file called views, right? So I'm going to say from articles, import views. So I'm importing the views file. Okay? All right. So now what I need to do is I need to create a path for this view. We'll go over what a path is in a bit. So I'll say path. I'll just say hello views dot test name equals test. So the path is basically how the view is accessed. This here is the URL pattern. This is what you type in the browser. Okay? This over here is the name of the view. So if you guys remember, let's do something over here for a minute. This is the function we created, right? We called it test. Views.test. And name, you can give it any name you want as long as this name is unique. Clear? Let's test it out and experiment with it a little bit. Okay? So now I can run my server, because if you guys remember, we said when I run the server, this is what lets me test out things in my app, or in my project, sorry. So let's go run our server. I'll say python manage.py run server. It's running, right? So I take this URL, paste it in there, and I get page not found 404. Why? Exactly, because this isn't the right URL. My URL is whatever this is slash hello. Why is it hello? Because of the path. If you guys take a look, I said the path or the URL pattern here for the path is hello. Okay? What if I change this to something else like HE? If I refresh, now this doesn't work, right? So the URL pattern has to be HE. Okay? Clear so far? Any questions? All right, easy so far, right? All right, let's do a little more stuff. So, what if I want more stuff to show here? I mean, this is nice, but there's not really that much, right? So, let's say I'll do a multi-line comment and I'll add some more stuff. Okay, we got some more text in there. But if I have a complete web page, do you think it's going to be practical that I have all of this here? Probably not. صح؟ تخيلوا عندنا ويب سايت كامل كذا صفحة، إذا راحت كل ال HTML هني راح تصير لويا. It's going to be a mess. صح؟ Alright. So, what do? instead of using an HTTP response, we use something called render. Okay? Now what render does, it allows me to render, or it allows me to generate an HTML file. It allows me to generate an HTML file. Okay? So, how does that work? So the render takes two things. It takes the request, and it takes an HTML file. So let's call this HTML file hello.html. What do you think we need to do now? I probably need to create this HTML file. All right. So, where should I create this HTML file? No. So, the way Django works is it will look for a folder called templates inside of your app. So what's my app? Articles. I need to create a new folder called templates. The name and the spelling is very important. Templates. Everything lowercase. Templates. Okay? So now I have that folder. So now I go to templates and I create a new file inside. And I'm going to call that new file hello.html. What should I put inside hello.html? Anything I want, right? So what should I put here? Maybe that whole hello message. Let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Let's refresh. It's working. Someone doesn't have me on mute. Mute. No? All right. So, if I try to do this, it's working. It's a lot cleaner than before, right? Let's view all files at the same time. So this is nice, but this is repetitive, right? I have to type hello Jidda multiple times, right? So right now, I have no way of actually sending data from the view to the template. Okay? So we're going to do it with some dummy text right now, and then we'll see how we can connect it to our database later on. Okay? So there's something called context data, and it's treated as a dictionary. Okay? So the way that dictionaries work in Python, there's keys and values, right? So I'll create a key, we'll call it message, and this message is going to be hello Jeddah. Tamam? Let's have maybe a title. 7-7 bootcamp. Cool? So we put this information in there. How can I access this information? No need for a for loop, not yet. Not yet, let's keep things simple. So the way to access data from your context is by its key. So I'll have to use title, and I'll have to use message, but I do it in a special way. I use something called Django templating. Okay? So it's something like this. I do double curly brackets, and then I say, for example, title. And then double curly brackets, and I'll call it message. All right, let's see what that looks like. Oh, okay, stopped working. Oh, okay. So I forgot to do something. You see this context dictionary? It's not gonna magically go to this template. I have to pass it. I have to say context, comma, context. So I give it now the request, the HTML file, and the dictionary. Let me try to refresh one more time. Now I see everything here, but it looks kind of ugly. Let's wrap it with some HTML just to make it look a little pretty. Okay? So I'll wrap this around an H1 tag. I'll wrap this around maybe an H4 tag. Now I get something that looks like this. So, let's do a quick review. All right? We have a browser, right? If we think back to that, to this over here, Chrome is our browser, right? How did we access this? We typed in a specific URL. This was the specific URL, HE/. If we take a look, here it is, HE/. From there, the URL goes to a view, right? Here, HE, which view does it access? Views.test. I go to my views file. It looks for the method, it looks for the view called test. What does test do? It renders a template called hello.html. Okay? What does hello.html take? It takes this dictionary called context, and it passes it here. Now, any key inside here, I can access it in my template using double curly brackets. You can call it a mustache, you can call it a curly bracket, whatever you like. All right? What's this whole double curly business? This is called Django templating. And that's pretty much it. Any questions? I'll give you guys a minute to let it digest. Think of some questions. What render does? Okay, so what the render function does is it allows me to generate this HTML file as a response. So it lets me take this HTML file and dictionary, which has this information. All right? How can I use this information? I access it by the keys within the template using double curly brackets. Now, okay, my view is dealing with the template, it's sending data, and it's rendering it properly. But how do I access this view? Through a URL. The first thing I have to do is I import the views file from articles. Why from articles? Because articles is the name of my app. Views, that's the name of the file. And then when I say path, I give it whatever URL pattern I want to write. Views.test. Test is the name of the view, the function. A name is anything I want to give it, as long as this value is unique. All right? Something else to remember. Your templates, your HTML files, they all go under a folder called templates. And the templates folder always goes inside the app folder. So if my app is called articles, the templates folder is called, the templates folder is inside articles. All right? You want some more time to digest it? Take your time. وعليكم السلام. شو المشكلة؟ اوريدي موجود عندك. اوكي. إذا موجود عندك شو أنت بتسوي الحين؟
No, I just need to get to this.
بس؟ زين منزل التكست اديتور سبلايم؟
I think so, yes, I think you have it.
ما عندك. زين خلينا نشوف. عندك شيء اسمه بايثون؟
Yes.
تقدر تستخدم بايثون. بس افتح ملف البروجكت بايثون وبس.
But how can I get to this project that connected to the desktop? Because you have it 7.7 in your documents, right?
Open.
Sure, just create one. Okay.
بس open ندور عليه.
Okay.
بس.
But I did not create the 7.7, the last one you have to.
لا عادي مو إلا تكون نفسي
Oh, it
عادي.
shouldn't be the same now, right?
لا عادي مو شرط يكون نفس الشيء.
Okay.
مثلا إذا تبي تقدر تبطل التاسك اللي سويته، تبطل أي بروجكت أنت مسويه لحد الآن. عادي.
عادي ها؟
عادي.
Okay. بعدين
المهم إنك تصيد ملف البروجكت.
هذا ايش اسمه
هذا اسمه سبلايم.
سبلاين
تبي أبطل لك إياه؟
لانه حلو التقسيم حقته، ولا عادي اقدر اقسم البايثون؟
تقدر تسويها بايثون بعد.
أقدر.
إذا حاب تنزل لي عندي هذا أفضل اللي أنا قاعد أستخدمه.
اوكي. بس البايثون لو ادخل بقدر اسوي بس اوبن مثلا اي بروجكت
صح؟
هذا
اللي تبي تبطله مثلا أنت مسميه لايف.
اوكي.
بس بطل. That's your project.
اوكي.
طيب كل الملفات ملوتك.
اوكي.
هذه السيتنجز. ليش عندك فايل اسمه رامي؟
ما اعرف، هم لخبط جوة بعض دخلت.
بس basically this is انت مسوي بروجكت داخل بروجكت.
يعني
بس تمسح هذا وسواه. تقدر تحذف رامي.
يصير اكمل على اللايف بس.
بالضبط.
اقدر احذف منه.
اتوقع ديليت.
اوكي الحين بيصير هذا الاب صح؟
بالضبط.
بعدين
لازم تسوي اب. manage.py start اب.
هذا اعتقد سويته انا من اول.
ما اتوقع لانه مو موجود بالبروجكت. روح شوف السلايدات.
مانج ايش كان الكوماند؟
manage.py start اب وتعطي اسم.
اوكي لا ما سويته ستارت.
في مشكلة.
سمعت عندي هذا ما قبل معي الامر هذا.
اي امر؟
هذا
لا
مانج باي ستارت اب
بايثون manage.py start اب. زين حاليا وينك؟
في الماجيك
موجود. حلو. بايثون manage.py start اب وعطى الاسم اللي انت تبغاه.
طيب
بس
ايش هذا؟ الله يعطيك يا بركة. شوف
صابع سحرية. الله يعافيك.
الخطوة اللي بعدها
ايه معليش تفضل.
بس فين هو قال لي سوي اليوزر الايميل حق الجيت هاب، بعدين سويت نفس اليوزر.
تمام.
سويت ما ضبط معي من اليوم انا احاول.
Please tell me who you are. بس حط ايميلك اللي تبع جيت هاب. هذا صار اوكي. الحين شبك الايميل. شوف انت الحين مسوي اد بس مو مسوي كومنت.
تمام.
نسوي كومنت. سوى كومنت. الحين خلينا نسوي بوش. لازم نحط اليوزر نيم والباسورد اللي تبع جيت هاب.
خلاص
المفروض